Hello and welcome to another CX Moment. In this series, we chat with companies about what's happening with their business, their support centers, and with their customer experience. We're now broadcasting twice a month, once here in Asia Pacific and once in the US. And you can watch all episodes on our Zendesk YouTube channel. Catch up on all of those that you've missed or that were outside of your time zone. We love questions, so ask them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer them all. You'll also see a short poll about 5 minutes before the program ends. Please take a moment to share your feedback because we certainly appreciate it. Now that the logistics are out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Sarah Reed from Zendesk, and I'm joined today by Su Lin Tan, the Chief of Staff and VP of Operations for Carousell. Hi, Su Lin.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's so nice to see you. We're so glad you're spending some time with us today. So let's just jump in because this half an hour goes by so quickly. I want to ask you about the origins of Carousell. What makes you so different than all the other marketplaces that are out there?
Well, Carousell is actually a little startup out of the tiny red dot of Singapore, a place quite far away from the valley, but we have some linkages to the valley as well. The app was founded in 2012 by 3 local boys after a stint that they had in Stanford and an internship in the valley. They were amazed by the power of technology and the possibilities that it brings just to solve everyday problems, right? So the 3 guys were just graduating, just barely starting out in the working world, and they had this inherent problem of having a bunch of stuff in their house, right? They have textbooks and old computers and old mobile phones, and they were finding it super clunky using the classified options at that point, which was mainly desktop based. And they thought, wow, there is this amazing gadget called the mobile smartphone, and it brings all sorts of possibilities to being able to transform the experience of buying and selling. So they put together, after a hackathon weekend, this wonderful little app that we now know as Carousell. And yeah, lo and behold, we're now in 6 markets. We're in Southeast Asia. We're also in Taiwan and Hong Kong. And our mission today is to make selling as easy as taking a photo and buying as simple as chatting, right? So that's our core value prop.
So what I have to ask, what is the most unusual thing that you've ever seen for sale on Carousell?
Oh my gosh, that's throwing it out at the limb, throwing me out there. I would say that there are many, many interesting stories that we are hearing. Things that you can't imagine, and because of the nature of my role, I tend to also be exposed to some of these things. But today, I was just recalling McDonald's, when they came out with this very popular McGriddles, and they were also giving this collector hoodie. Within moments of it going on sale, and it was sold out everywhere. You see listings of McGriddle hoodies on Carousell, so I'm constantly amazed by, the speed at which items make its way to our platform.
Well, I think that right there is so indicative of how easy your platform is to use and just how successful it is, that I can get something out in the world and within moments, I can put it up for sale, or I can be that person who wants to buy it because I don't have access to it anywhere. Do you see more people buying and selling on Carousell now during COVID-19 because they aren't out in the world getting things?
Yeah, I think you totally called out what we're seeing on the platform in the last, I would say, 6 months or so. So during the COVID period, obviously, the whole world had to respond very quickly, and we were all suddenly, told that you have to stay home. You can't go out and get the stuff that you're so used to, from the shops around the corner, just because it's not safe. So I think we were in a very unique position. We were very privileged to play a part in enabling people to just continue life, to help people get on with life, from within the safety of their homes, right? By just getting daily essentials from others in the community or some of the merchants that are on our platforms, right? So we've seen a huge spike in all our metrics, whether we're talking about the number of active users, the number of transactions that we're seeing, the number of chats, as well as listings. They're at their all-time high, as compared to all the other times in the last 8 years, simply because of the COVID situation.
Well, that's so indicative of how necessary the community thinks Carousell is. How else are you vital to your community? And how did you, other than COVID-19, how did you become so necessary?
Yeah, I think I would say that, you used the right word, right? Community. I think we're very, very proud of our buyers and sellers in the platform, because we see each other as like, peers, right? We are actually relying on each other to help us find things that we need, right? So we don't see ourselves as facilitating arm's length transactions. We're very much about a user community that makes magic possible for each other, creating win-win solutions, right? So what we want to do is to advocate like a more sustainable lifestyle for the longer term. It's not just that, buying secondhand is sustainable, but more than that, I think it's just smarter, right? Because it goes easier in your pockets than buying things at full price. So what we want to do is to offer a large selection of, you hit the nail on the head again, unique products, and users actually find a lot of value, and they make the choice of that trade-off between condition and price. And we enable that, right? Yeah.
So you're putting so much of that power back actually in the buyer's hands too, because to your point, they get to choose, do I want to pay a higher price for something that is perhaps of higher quality, or which is the only choice you have when you go into a shop, or I have the choice to purchase something which may be a little used and loved, but I'm going to get it at a much better price. So let's talk customer service. How does customer service come into play? You already mentioned that you're receiving so many more interactions than you were, let's say, a year ago. So how are you doing this? How are you supporting all of this? What's the role of customer service?
Yeah, for us at Carousell, customer service is very much part of our core value that we embrace. So our core value is termed caring deeply. We care deeply about customer service, about our users, and customer service is a very good way of demonstrating that level of care. So we think every day about providing good user experience and for our users, and we want to create value that way, right? So this will then make them stay on the platform and grow with us, right? So whether you're from products or engineering or marketing or CX for that matter, we're all in it together to create that wonderful experience for our users. But to the point of customer service, we are a setup that is centered in a few parts of the world, and we actually avail our customer service in 6 languages, simply because Southeast Asia is just a hodgepodge of different languages and nationalities and races. So I think that sets us slightly apart from some of the customer service setups that perhaps you're more familiar with in your part of the world. So today we operate in 6 languages. That would be English, as you would imagine. And then we have native languages, right? Like Mandarin, Cantonese for those from Hong Kong, for example, right? We also have Bahasa Malaysia, Bahasa Indonesia, and Tagalog, because Philippines is also another thriving market that we operate in.
That alone, there's so many things I want to start to delve in with the multi-language piece, because for any of us who have ever run a contact center and had to support multi-language, that adds so much complexity to the support that you offer. So we'll dive into that in just a second. But first, I want to ask a little about the trends of your customers, or the trends of your buyers and your sellers, and what's changed over the past 6 months. Like, are they, other than they're buying more and interacting with you more, what else has changed about their behavior?
Customers have evolved their preferences over time, and it's become very obvious, simply because we are inundated with all kinds of new e-commerce players in the market, as we see today, and they've, to some extent, reset the expectations, right? So even marketplace players like ourselves, by the way, we don't see ourselves as an e-commerce player at all. We are a peer-to-peer marketplace. But today, customers have come to sort of seek the same levels of service standards, as it were, from marketplace players as they would from e-commerce players, right? But whether you are one or the other, I think we can talk to a few mega trends that we're seeing. So one is people have started moving away from voice as a means to connect to their platforms, right? Whenever they run into problems. I think people are so used to messaging in their daily lives and chatting, as it were. It has become almost like the default preference mode of contact, as opposed to voice in the past and even email, right? The second mega trend that we're seeing from users is this instant feedback. I think in a time-starved world, people just seek instantaneous responses, right? Any delay is considered, really no, and they want spontaneous kind of like loop closures. Yeah. The third thing is definitely well, it's something that we're used to today, right? Because of Google and the prevalence of the Google search bar, the tiny bar that we see every day, 10 times on Sunday, people are quite used to being self-sufficient. They will just, go out and seek the information that they need, and solve their own little problems, right? So self-service is actually quite the norm today. So with messaging, instant feedback, and self-service, this has actually shaped the way we take our customer service experience at Carousell.
And before we keep going, I want to encourage everyone who is listening to ask any questions that you have in the Q&A, and also share any of your Carousell experiences. We love to hear what you've sold, what you've bought, how your customer service experience has been. So drop those in the Q&A, and we'll dive into those as we carry on. Now,
yeah, Sarah, I would also love if we could hear user stories, from anyone in the audience today. One of the things, as we talked about, we're most proud of are the user stories, and those really inspire us and give us the energizers, to just keep going day after day to do what we do.
Well, here at Zendesk, we agree with you, which is why we talk to people like you, because user stories are the things that energize us in this space. So I completely agree with that. So let's, we've talked a bit about multi-language and the fact that you support, 6 languages?
6? I kid you not.
It's almost a little mind-boggling to support 6 languages fully. And do you support them all within your internal centers, or are you also utilizing a BPO to help you out?
Yeah, so we started off many years ago in the early days with our own in-house service center. Sometime in the middle of 2018, we decided that using a BPO partner would enable us to scale very quickly, and because our business was growing in leaps and bounds, it was a more sustainable way to grow our customer service facility. So we went to a BPO partner, and we have a center today operating out of KL in Malaysia. So they are the ones who are primarily doing native language support and chat support for that matter. Then sometime last year, because of an acquisition with OLX in Philippines, what we've done is we've also set up a second service center out of Philippines with in-house contractors. And that's now the hub of where primarily English language tickets and chats are being handled today. So we're operating out of 2 areas.
That's, and I would, now, is the support similar between the 2 centers? Are they both handling all channels?
Yeah, so we started chat. So email is our default customer service channel. And sometime last year as well, we started pushing hard on chat, and we can talk more about chat a little bit later. So we started the chat experiment out of our BPO, and that's been going really well. So we have not pushed really hard on the Philippines operations to do chat yet. So they're doing mostly English and emails, but they're starting to ramp up on chat. We'll soon be able to do a bit of rebalancing, right? But what's unique about the KL BPO setup is we invest a lot in providing as good an experience as possible. So beyond local agents, we actually hire native language speakers, and they're a little bit costly. More costly than most, right? Because we're paying a premium for the native language, right? Sometimes you would imagine there is even relocation involved to make that happen. So definitely an investment on our part, but something that we believe is core to our DNA of caring deeply, and it's something that we were, you know, greatly aligned to providing for our users.
Well, I love that you just said it's more around the value than the cost savings. I ran contact centers within a BPO in the Philippines for a little over 5 years. And that was always something that was so frustrating, is when people would come to us and they'd only want to save money, and they wouldn't look at it from the perspective of the tremendous value that we were providing, the 24-hour support, the multi-language support, all the things that their contact centers couldn't provide. So well done that you've gone into that relationship, you know, in that fashion. We are starting to get some questions from the audience, and I want to jump into a couple of these, and because several of them are around multi-language, and I assumed that that was going to be a hot topic. Self-service. Are you providing self-service in all of those different languages or in all of those different countries?
Yes, so we use the help center that, you know, is based off the Zendesk platform, and we do translate every single English article into 5 other languages. So again, you know, these are all the considerations you have to bear in mind up front. It is an investment, right? Everything is just 5-fold in magnitude, you know, or you have to do things 6 times over just because of that commitment to provide native languages. So even like, you know, capacity planning, copywriting skills, you know, all sorts of things have to be taken into consideration. You know, longer lead times just to make things happen as new features get rolled out, right? But it is definitely a more native experience, I suppose, for your users, and I do believe that this is well worth the investment.
And staying on that multi-language, multi-country track for just a little bit longer, and then I promise you we'll move on to something else. But we have a couple questions around the cultural differences between the different countries that you support, and how do you train your customer support people to handle those cultural nuances?
I think this is where we really lean a lot on the BPO specialization. So the BPO setup that we work with, this is really par for the course for them, because I don't think that we are the only company in the world who is really trying to avail native language support. So this is where we lean on the trainers and the training team of our BPO partners to be able to make this happen. So everything that we do right now from HQ in Singapore is done first in English. And then we would go through the processes and the FAQs and the knowledge management articles and everything in English. And then this is where we then work very closely with the training team and the QA team from the BPO to be able to do that translation. And then we lean on them to be able to then train the native agents, you know, in a way that levels everybody up to the minimum standard.
You're throwing out so many best practices here that I want to make sure people are hearing. And one of those best practices is certainly around the testing out of things and the experimentation, and that you're utilizing your BPO to do those experiments so that you can then translate and move that into your internal center. It's brilliant. And it's such a great utilization of the talents that they have. And one of those things that you mentioned was experimenting with chat. And I'd love to talk a bit about that. And we've got some questions on that as well, because chat isn't as well utilized throughout Asia Pacific as it is, for example, in the United States and other parts of North and Latin America. So how are you getting the adoption of chat?
So it's still a work in progress, I would say. Today, our chat utilization is roughly about 1 in 5, I would say. It has come a long way. You know, in the early days, I remember we stayed very long in the single-digit percentages. And there was a lot of like, we're all convinced that that's the way to go, because in our daily lives as consumers, you know, as friends and family, that's our default mode of communication. So I think there is a lot yet for customers, you know, when it comes to dealing with their vendors or their, you know, the businesses that they contract with, to switch to chat. Maybe it's just a question of discoverability at this juncture. And we're still doing a lot of experimentation around this. So one of the things that we started to do was to use Zendesk's proactive chat mechanism, right? And it has allowed us to push further, you know, it depending on, you know, the ticket form that you're in, a little widget would jump out and just ask the user if they would prefer to jump on a chat, you know, instead of firing a ticket form to us, for example. And yeah, we've come a long ways since we started using proactive chat, the Zendesk feature. When we started out, we had like about 10% of these invitations being taken up, but today, 21% of proactive chats are actually, you know, being followed up on, and users get into a conversation with our agents.
And as much as we love our agents, getting some automation in place is so imperative so that they can handle those tougher questions and they can handle those conversations that need more of that customer connection. So what else are you doing on the automation side? I know you've been an Answerbot customer with Zendesk for quite a long time. So what are you doing with bots and other types of automation?
Yeah, the Answerbot was an amazing adventure that we started since March of 2019, I believe, right? So we you know, as our business grows, obviously one of the imperatives for any operation setup is to manage costs, right? So cost efficiency is like a very important metric alongside, you know, customer experience and customer satisfaction. So what we've done is to jump on the Answerbot facility of Zendesk to try and trigger like articles, right, to users, right, in response to the topic that they're out to seek answers for. In the beginning, I remember in month 1, our Answerbot solve rate was like a measly 3%, you know, that was in March of 2019. Well, obviously, you know, because we believe that's the right way to go, automation is going to be the thing that allows us to scale and be cost efficient in the longer term. We actually invested in a team to analyze user sentiments from tickets, you know, from our social media inboxes, you know, from every data pool under the sun, to try and figure out what are the most common questions, I guess, people reached out to us about. And what we did was we set up a whole process where we're able to translate those user sentiment analysis into like articles, right? And we put them up in our help center. And then the Answerbot is able to troll the help center content and pop these articles up to people as they were on our ticket forms, you know, in our chats and things like that. So today, well, maybe not today, but in August at least, that's a full month, we have seen Answerbot solve rate go up. It's amazing. So today it's like about 1 in 5 is solved today, 22% actually. So in a single month, more than 2,000 tickets do not make its way to our agents and get automatically just closed out because the articles surfaced by the Answerbot just solved the problems, right? And
yeah, and that's the most important thing, isn't it? That the customer had their issue solved so fast.
Instant. Right. Yeah, I think like it is a magical thing, you know, because from that level of cost per ticket that we're seeing, we're able to bring cost savings to every ticket that's solved by Answerbot. So to be clear, it is not a cost-free endeavor. The Answerbot solve ticket actually costs us about $1 for every solve ticket, you know. But if you compare that to what we're investing for a agent solve ticket, then you can see that, you know, we're easily saving $1.50 maybe for every ticket that's solved by Answerbot. So in a single month, you know, in August, for example, we were saving $2,500 US, right? And that could easily be plowed back to hire more agents, perhaps, right? To solve problems that self-service and Answerbot wasn't able to tackle, right? If you add up the savings across all, you know, 12 months in a year, it's quite a significant sum, and that kind of money can actually be plowed back to build an even better product, you know, to improve our users' lives. So it's very meaningful.
And what you're talking about is truly the value of customer support, in that it's meant to help that customer, but it's also meant to provide something back to the organization so that you can continue to iterate and innovate. Now, you mentioned sentiment, and that you know, with Answerbot, you were able to measure, or you were able to look at the sentiment and give them, you know, the right article and do. How are you measuring sentiment? Are you able to measure loyalty and customer sentiment?
I guess I should clarify. I was talking more about the topics of the day, right? Rather than talking about NPS or CSAT or everything else. Specifically, I was talking about looking at user tickets and any other user data points that we have to see what people were concerned about, you know, what people were getting tripped over. And then we translated that in short order into articles that we then put into our help center across 6 languages, sorry, right? But, you know, I have to do another Zendesk call out at this juncture. So I think the process became so much better later on when we discovered this magical feature called Content Queue. So Zendesk has this feature which just trolls through tickets, you know, and chats as well. And they actually suggest to us topics that we ought to be, you know, adding to our help center. They even give us hot keywords pertaining to each of these topics, so that when we write the articles, we're sure to include those keywords as well, so that, in terms of like Answerbot picking up those articles from Help Center, it's just going to have a higher hit rate, and everybody wins.
And everybody wins. And would you believe it? Our time is up. We have been talking for a half an hour, and I want to say thank you so much, Su Lin, for sharing your expertise. And thank you to everyone who shared a moment with us today and asked questions. We appreciate all of that engagement so much. At the end of this month, we're actually going to be hosting a special event that you don't want to miss. And it's called Go from CX Starter to Champion. And in that event, we will show you how to level up your support. We're going to share new research on CX maturity and the importance of customer experience. It is not to be missed. And in the meantime, we are going to be talking with Plexus Worldwide about self-service on our next CX Moment. And until then, please stay connected with us and the rest of the Zendesk community. And with that, be safe, be helpful, and we'll chat with all of you again soon. Thank you so much.